Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Nick's Drive. The FRS is dirty today, so I'm going to give it a nice little bath, clean the interior up, and then I'm going to re-tech the car again. I teched the car a couple weeks ago. I got a track day this weekend, and everything seemed pretty good. I redid the brakes on the car again this year. So I'm going to go over everything today that you need to check on your car before you go out to the track. Okay, so while I'm on this, and this goes for both sides, I'm on the front driver's side right now, there's a few things I check. Something that's barely in frame, I'll check the tie rod ends, make sure they're not cracked and leaking or anything. I'll make sure that my brake lines are not hard, that they're actually still soft and pliable. And you want to make sure you got enough brake pad. If you're running standard, O'Reilly's, Auto Parts Store, whatever, brake pads, you want to make sure you have at least 50%, if not 75% brake pad left, because you will run through those really fast. I've got some Ferrotto D2500s on here. These actually lasted me 2 seasons, so these lasted me probably 5 or 6 track days and 10 to 20 autocrosses on top of that. So taking in mind that's how long some of the more expensive $150, $200 pads last you if you're doing track days and stuff like I am. Now, I checked these already. Make sure these are still torqued down. You don't want to lose anything. Check your torque specs. Check your torque specs on any bolts that are around here, because you don't want anything to fall apart while you're at the track. We've had somebody lose a ball joint bolt, or lose both their ball joint bolts, and the whole wheel fly out during an autocross event. So make sure everything's torqued down. Check for leaks up around your struts up here, a little bit higher. I'll show you that here. So check and make sure that this isn't leaking up in here in your struts and whatnot on all 4 corners. So that's pretty much what I check whenever I'm in the wheel well. Your plastics, this is not tech stuff. Some of it's not. Just make sure all your plastics are all intact and secured and whatnot. You don't want anything starting to rub your tires and wheels while you're out on the course. Excuse my stutter. So also you're going to want to check your tire tread at this point too. Make sure your tires are have probably about 4 or 5/30 seconds left on them. Make sure there's no belts or wires showing while when you're inspecting them and whatnot. And they're not dry rotted. Make sure they're not dry rotted. That is a big thing. So I'll take you guys to the rear and show you what I check on the rear of this car. Now while you're back here, you want to check just about the same. This car's rear wheel drive and I got CV shafts. So there's a couple of other things that I'll check while I'm back here. But I got a tie rod ball joint that's not dry rotted as much as it probably could be, but this might need to be replaced mid-season or so. It's not leaking or anything. That's just water from when I was washing the car. The brake pads have probably another track day left on them. So after this track day, I'm probably going to change those. Make sure your struts aren't leaking back here either. And then back here, if you can see it. Alright, so back here for my car, I've got a CV shaft with CV boots. You want to make sure your CV boots aren't tossing grease everywhere, or they're not cracked, so they're tossing grease everywhere. I got an inner and an outer, and both of mine look good. And just like the other place, check your brake lines. Make sure your brake lines aren't hard. Make sure they're still pliable. So, besides that, let's get into the engine bay for the next part of this video. Alright, so another thing you're going to want to check that I almost failed to mention is your wheel bearings. So take your wheels and try shaking them left and right and up and down. And they should not move at all. If they do, then you got a bad wheel bearing. Other things you want to check while you're in here would be your oil level. If you've got an automatic transmission, check and make sure that you have enough fluid in it. I got a manual, so I can't really check that very well. Do a fresh oil change before you go to the track. I mean, it's as simple as that. Open up your air box and check your air filter. Make sure your air filter's clean. This one's a little old. It probably needs to be re-oiled. This thing probably needs to be re-oiled. I haven't re-oiled it in a little while. and clean. Now another thing is you want to make sure like your slave cylinder doesn't leak. You want to make sure you got enough brake fluid, brake fluid. I make sure my windshield wiper reservoir is actually full. Now one of the biggest things I've seen people get denied to come on the track for is that they don't have their positive battery terminal covered efficiently, I guess you could say too. Some people just don't have good enough covers on them. Also, your tie down. You can't have a ratchet strap or a bungee cord on this. You need a bolted in tie down for your battery. So those are actually two biggest things that I always see people get turned down to drive on the track and autocross for. So make sure you got a proper tie down for your battery and have your positive battery terminal covered. Alright, so you want to make sure your coolant hoses are soft, or not too soft, and then make sure they're not dry rotted or anything. When you're checking for oil leaks, you're also checking for fuel leaks and all that stuff. I know everything's pretty good on this car for that. I don't smell any fuel. I haven't seen any fuel where the fuel lines are going, so that's all fine and dandy on this car. Now before you go to the track, make sure you don't have any junk in your car that you don't need to take to the road course with you, because you got to take it out of your car and you got to find a place to put it. It's annoying. So I'm taking my coat because it's tentatively going to be either 44 or 72. The weather keeps on changing. So I'm going to take a coat. I'm going to have my luggage with me because I'm traveling. So I'm going to have a lot of stuff to take out. But if you're going to a local event, just take a little bit of necessities that you need. A cooler, something to eat, something to drink, and maybe a jacket, a light jacket or two. Because when you're on the road course, you have to have your windows down. That is one of the necessities. So that if you miss a flag for some reason, at least somebody can blow an air horn or get your attention, so that you can hear it. So that's why your windows have to stay down. And it might get a little chilly, so take a sweater or a jacket at least. You want to make sure there's no excessive play in your steering. All the play I have right now in my steering wheel is what is supposed to be there. Make sure your brake pedal takes pressure, and you've got your clutch too. Make sure it engages and disengages. That's about it. Floor mats also. Actually, almost forgot about those. Don't forget to take your floor mats out and take all the junk out of your trunk. But anyways, make sure there's nothing inside your car that could get under your feet or lodged somewhere or flying somewhere and distract you or anything. You don't want to be distracted while you're on the road course. You want to know what's around you, not what's inside the car. Okay, so before you go to an event, we've already checked over everything, but this is the list that they give you. Every list is about the same. This is Bench Tokyo's. This is the one I'm going to this weekend. So we checked the condition of tires whenever we were down there. Made sure all the lug nuts were tight to manufacturer's torque specs. No hubcaps or beauty rings. So if you got steel wheels and you got hubcaps on your car, make sure that you take the hubcaps off before you go out on the track, or actually before you even get teched. For the steering and suspension, we checked the wheel bearings while we were changing out the wheels today, and we checked the steering play, made sure there's no steering play in the steering wheel whenever we were checking the interior of the car out. So in the engine bay, we made sure that there was no fluid leaks, oil, fuel, or water. In this case, it's coolant. We checked our radiator overflow, made sure it was between low and high. Radiator hoses, we made sure that the condition of the hoses were suitable for the road course. Make sure there's no cracks in them, or they're dry rotted, or extremely soft, or anything like that. Battery secure, no bungees. It literally says no bungees on here, so we made sure about that. And make sure your terminals are covered. When we were in the interior of the car, also we checked the pedal pressure. When we were under the engine bay, we checked the fluid level. We checked the lines when we were changing the tires. And we got to make sure our brake lights work. I kind of know mine work, but I'll check them beforehand. So, safety equipment. None of this really applies to anybody who's driving a stock car on an HPDE course, but roll bars in open cars, Seat belts. So the seat belts actually do apply to us. Make sure your seat belt locks. They're going to actually yank on your seat belt and make sure it locks whenever force is applied to it. So your helmet. Your helmet has to be Snell rated. It can't be DOT rated from Walmart or anything like that. Some Walmarts may sell Snell helmets, but ours doesn't. So make sure your helmet is a Snell 2010 or newer. That is the current and 2018 rating. So 2010 and 2015 is good. Every 5 years Snell requalifies, I guess, or retests their helmets and puts a new one on it. So in 2020 will be the next helmet. And then 2020 rolls around, it'll be 2015 and 2020. So it's the last two helmets that are on that. If you've got your battery inside your cockpit or anywhere else, make sure it's covered. It's got to be in, well, I guess only in the cockpit it says. It doesn't apply to me because it's in my engine bay in the stock location. Make sure your gas cap's secure, no open wires exposed, and make sure your seats are bolted in tight, so shake on your seats. If you're missing a bolt, sometimes they'll shake. Make sure when you're at the track, we'll go over that whenever I get there too, most likely. But make sure there's no loose objects in your car. You can remove your spare tire, your jack. Make sure you remove your floor mats. You're going to sign this, you're going to date it, you're going to put your driver's name, your car number, and all track tech and stuff on here. You're going to have this pre-filled out before you go. And then the inspector's going to look at this, he's going to look over your car, and he's going to sign it. And then they're going to give you a little sticker to put on your car somewhere, and possibly your numbers. We'll go over that when we get to the track too. But I guess that's it for the car today. That's it for the episode today. Hopefully it's not too long. I really don't know how much footage I got. I know I've talked a lot, but there's a lot you need to check on your car to make sure you're safe and other people are safe while you're out there on the road course. That's about it. I'll see you guys next time on Nick's Drive.